Just as everyone loosens their gear and gets some sleep, there's an explosion to our left, and then nothing but volleys of gunfire coming at us. The explosion, a SEAL team, and 3 bad guys inside this circle, and what we call a Mexican standoff, right?
You'd have these huge convoys we'd be driving, and you got the bridges you drive under. You'd be on a breath hold, man, as long as you could go, and you're just because these dudes would sit on top and they'd pull pins on grenades, and as soon as you drove through, they'd launch them, trying to land them inside of your turret. You're just waiting for a tink, tink, and that's it.
One night in June, we got into a very big, complicated firefight. Multiple enemy positions, taking fire from the rooftop. We had a grenade drop down, and I had an enemy machine gunner and shooters up on a rooftop, barricaded in, kind of created massive chaos.
Welcome back to Mulligan Brothers, and today I'll be listening to 3 Navy SEALs. Today's video, as always, was sponsored by Huel. I'm drinking Huel Black Edition, which has 26 vitamins and minerals, 35 grams of protein and slow release carbs to make sure that I can stay satiated and proteined up whilst I make these documentaries. If you want to find out more about these, go to the link in the description. I'll talk about them a little bit later on in the video. Just something that to give a perspective of what deployment was like for you, you know, being out there. And then you spoke about a really shocking story on the Sean Ryan podcast. You know, you shared this story. Is there any other moments for yourself that where you're out there that stood out, that sort of would capture it for an audience who have no experience of what war looks like?
I'll give you one with the human aspect. You would go out and we'd build a target package on, we'll say you, and we study you, sometimes for weeks, for months. Sometimes it's a thing we've been chasing you for years, and multiple guys try to get you. We just can never neck you down. So I've been staring at your face, we'll just say for 4 months, nothing but your face. People in between, but you're the big fish we're all going after the entire time. You're up to all kinds of nefarious stuff. You're responsible for the death of 40 Marines, and you've done this, and you're this financier, now you're a bomb maker, make it up, whatever you're doing. And I'm staring at your face all day long. I've got a printout next to my computer. I'm writing emails and I'm looking at you. I'm FaceTime my wife, I'm looking at you. I'm burning a hole through you. You're ingrained in my memory at this point. And then eventually we get a call, we found you. Now we're going to go find you, and we'll fly in on a helicopter wherever it is, and we'll do a long walk in, or we'll parachute in, we'll do whatever we have to. We'll surround the house and we'll do an assault. Really quiet, not a sound. You won't hear the gate open, you won't hear the door open. It's eerily quiet. And whatever happens on the inside, if you want to be a hero and you want to shoot it out, you shoot it out, and at the end of the day, you get killed. We've got to go through, we got to clear the rest of the target. The neighbors are coming out, they're shooting at you. Helicopters are flying by, bombs are getting dropped. And in the course of that clearance, you run back and you see all his kids, his wife, his grandmother, all laying on top of him just screaming. They don't know he's a terrorist. They don't know who that dude is. All I see is a 4-year-old with her arms wrapped around this dude's neck, screaming like you've never heard before. Like, what am I supposed to do for this thing right now? I think about it in reverse. If a SWAT team came in here and killed me in the middle of the night, what my 5-year-old would do. Like what she would sound like. And it's hard to block that out. It's hard not to see the human aspect of it. Like, they don't know he's actually hunting us. They don't know what he's doing. That's Dad. That's whatever they call him. That's the dude bouncing around kicking soccer balls outside at 12:30 in the afternoon on Thursday. I just watched him do it. He's helping hang clothes on a clothesline. He's doing everything normal. It's just when they go to bed, now he's doing really bad stuff. They don't know that. And they don't know that after he's dead. All they know is that you with that flag on killed my father. That's all they know. And there is a burning hatred that you see. It's usually the boys. I've seen it a couple times, and you'll watch them shift from that to you, and the look in their eyes when it goes. You just created a monster. Like, there's nothing I can do. And when I was younger, man, I used to be a lot better at it. Because I looked young. I looked like a little kid. And they naturally gravitate to me. They just do. They see me on there. I mean, I've had multiple little kids come up, and I just pick them up. I'll walk them around the courtyard, just try to get them in a good spot, put them over with the wife and kids, but, you know, try to crack Kim lights, try to give them candy, try to do whatever. And I think about, in reality, what that must feel like. Like, now I've got this dude that looks like some alien. quad tube night vision, you know, cut off this, big beard, long hair, and you just shot my father in the face. Now you're giving me a Kim Light and a packet of Skittles? Yeah, thanks, dude. Like, God. And some of those things, like those are the ones that really haunt me. Is I'll come back and I'll have a reaction, or I'll have a moment with one of my kids, and I'll remember back. Like, they'll scream, they'll make a noise, and I'll remember. I wish I could speak Arabic. I wish I could just tell them, like, dude, I wish you weren't here to see that. I wish I could have just Men in Blacked you and just taken that memory away from you, but I can't. I got a job to do. Your dad had a job to do. At the end of the day, it's war, man. I did not kill your dad because I wanted to. I killed your dad because I had to. And it sucks, man, because a lot of that, it weighs on people, and they think about it in real context with real emotion. And now once you have a family, you see it for the whole picture. Nothing else you could do. I'm not going to let him kill me. I'm not going to let him kill my friends. But I really wish there was a way to not expose him to that. And you've also seen it in the polar opposite. I've seen dudes bear hug their kids and put them as human shields so fast it'd make your head spin. They don't care. I've seen dudes push their wives in front of people. I've seen them shoot their wives. They don't care. Like they'll put a suicide vest on a kid real quick, sit them right in the courtyard and clack them off. They don't care. Which is very different because they don't know that. They haven't seen that side of them yet. I have. Like, you don't know how far your dad would have gone. Give him 15 more minutes, you would have been outside with an AK. But I know the reality now, but it's hard not to shift it. It's hard not to go back and forth. But a lot of that, I mean, that's a lot of stuff the guys deal with.
That's tough. That is tough. Yeah. I think, like you say, when you've got kids who, like, you know, I'm picturing my son in my head whilst you're saying that. And that's that. Yeah. I mean, obviously the reality doesn't line up, but yeah, it's very difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird.
Was there a moment at war that taught you the most that you remember?
Oh, there's a lot of moments. There's a lot of moments where you take those lessons learned and they stick forever. Probably one of them was getting ambushed. We had set up for the night, and this was at the beginning of Iraq, and we were part of the initial push. So we didn't have bases, we didn't have anything. We were literally sleeping underneath our Humvees every night. And it was one night when we weren't actually working. And so we had a moment. We couldn't even remember. I was like, when was the last time we slept, guys? And we're like, I don't know. When was the last time we slept? I was like, maybe we should sleep tonight, right? So we say, hey, you know, you two guys are on watch. Everyone else, go ahead, loosen your gear and get some sleep. And just as everyone loosens their gear and gets some sleep, there's an explosion to our left, and then nothing but volleys of gunfire coming at us. And we're like, holy shit, you know, that was the worst timing, right? And so guys' helmets were off, you know, gear was loose, guns were to their sides. So there was a split second of chaos and all that just internally for us. I had taken the first watch, so I still had my helmet and nods. I pull my night vision down, I look, and I see these guys about 50 yards away sitting in these trees, right? But there's still all this other gunfire. And the reason being is we had pulled into a Marine perimeter, right? And it was all of these light armored vehicles with 18-year-olds manning 50 cals, okay? And so they weren't communicating with each other very well, right? So some of them had taken all of this ordnance that they had captured, stuck it in the middle of the perimeter, and decided to light it off, right? So it explodes. Well, the word didn't get out that they were going to blow up all this demo that they had found. So some of those 18-year-olds on 50 cals decided to start shooting at the explosion, which was, we were kind of literally behind it inside the circle. So our Humvee is literally getting holes shot through it like Swiss cheese by these kids, these Marines on 50 cals. And then at the same time, the explosion, the gunfire caused these 3 Iraqi Fedayeen guys to kind of get up and move, even though they weren't the ones initially shooting at us. And so we see them, they got some shots off, and I'm like, hey, we got bad guys in the wire, which is really bad, right? And we're surrounded by the 18-year-olds with 50 cals. So it's the explosion, a SEAL team, and 3 bad guys inside this circle, and what we call a Mexican standoff, right? It's all guns pointed at each other. And anyway, a lot of lessons learned from that, right? Communication is key. Everyone has to be communicating. Everyone has to know what's going on at all times, or you can have that blue on blue situation. The fact that they didn't clear they created a perimeter around an area that they hadn't cleared, right? They didn't know that there was 3 bad guys sitting in the bushes, and they formed a circle around them. And then we pull in, and now we're, literally 50 yards away from bad guys, and we're surrounded by a bunch of kids that weren't communicating very well. So it was a very dangerous situation. But probably part of the highlight reel when I go through to my mind is a point when my buddy Matt Mills is off to my right. I remember putting my nods down. I remember looking at him real quick, and he is trying to get his body armor back on, but his elbow is a big kid, and his elbow is kind of stuck where the rib strap is connected, right? And so he's trying to push through the shoulder strap and in between the rib strap. And he's like, hey, can you help me get this on? And so in the middle of all this chaos, I run over and I grab his arm and literally pull it through. And we're both laughing, with gunfire and bad guys. And I just remember that moment all the time because we were both laughing about it. We're both Texas kids. And Matt, he ended up, dying in extortion 17 years later. But it's those little split seconds where you're like, yeah, that is exactly what it's all about. You're helping out your buddy in the middle of fucking chaos, and you're laughing about it. You know what I mean? Those are the things that stand out the most to me.
What was your first experience at war like? Like, is there a long gap between that training and
it's about a 2-year cycle? I came in 2002, did my initial block of training, came through. They let us volunteer. So we had an opportunity to check into a team early and get right into a platoon and go to Iraq early. Iraq had just kicked off, so we were just trying to rush to get in Iraq. And we didn't hear much. Like, my dad was already retired out, so we didn't get to hear about all the daily fighting and what it was really like. So a lot of it was hearsay. A lot of it was just on the news. Or you talk to cadre, the new bud instructors that just came back from Iraq or Afghanistan, so they were like the new hotness. They'd walk around the compound, you just look at them. Dude, he just came back from Iraq. You know what I mean? It's like they always had this air of mystique to him. And then we got there. Checking into the team was different because I knew a lot of the guys. I knew a lot of the senior guys. I'd kind of grown up with them, but I'm not connected to them. It was never a, hey, what's up? It was never like that. And they made it known. Like, some of the guys I've known my entire life. Like, gave birth, like his wife gave birth next to my mother. Like, really close. Never. Just kept him off to the side. And then we went to Iraq, and I felt like a fish out of water for the first couple weeks. I couldn't believe it was happening because I wanted it. Like, I wanted to go to Iraq so bad. I wanted to go to Afghanistan. I wanted to get into a fight. And then when you got there, I felt so immature. And not immature, like maturity-wise, but immature in life. Like, it was hard for me to wrap my head around because you'd hear all this stuff on the news about WMDs and oil and all of this and, all this negative spin they would put on it, and none of that mattered. None of it mattered. Your political views don't matter. Your religion doesn't matter. Your race, color, creed doesn't matter. These dudes are trying to kill your ass all fucking day. And it was. And a lot of it, you felt helpless because you would just drive these routes trying to get from base to base, and you would just see this wreckage on the side of the road. It's just, there's no way anybody survived that. Not a chance. And you're just waiting. So a lot of it, you get on these roads and you'd be on a breath hold, man, as long as you could go, and you're just, I mean, we had one where you'd have these huge convoys we'd be driving, and you got the bridges you drive under, and these dudes would sit there on the other side of the bridge. So you would, enter on the left side or enter on the right side, you'd come out on the left, and everybody would zigzag because these dudes would sit on top and they'd pull pins on grenades. And as soon as you drove through, they'd launch them, trying to land them inside of your turret. It's like, and there's just people up there the whole time. So there's nothing you can do. You can't just shoot them. They're not brandishing anything. You're just waiting for a tink, tink, and that's it. So every time you drive on them, you're just looking at these people, like waiting for something to lob over and just, oh God. And you'd hear explosions in the distance or up in front of you or behind you. And you're like, oh my God, when's it going to happen? And because of the quarantine and the lockdown, they had everybody on. I mean, we went weeks. You wouldn't see anybody. We'd do daytime patrol. You'd see everybody out. And then as soon as the sun would set, ghost town. I mean, nobody. We went out dozens of times. I never saw anybody. Never. You're like, what is going on here? Like, is there anybody even here? And then all of a sudden, sure as shit, you got to give them time. Now they all start to come out. It's like, oh, okay. Like, this is real. These people are actually trying to kill us all. And it doesn't matter why you're here. Like, you're here to try to liberate people. You're here to try to make doesn't matter. They don't care. And once you kind of get over that, you realize that it doesn't matter why you're here. You're here and you're going to stay here, and you got to finish this entire job, and you got to be as safe as possible. I think for me, that trip to 2005, we lost the guys in Afghanistan, and that was a huge culture shock. That was probably the dose of reality that everybody needed, that it doesn't matter how fancy you are, how strong you are, how good you can shoot, how elite your team is. If you never get a chance to fight, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many kids you have. It doesn't matter how beautiful your wife is. Gone in an instant. And that reality is really what I needed. The only thing that's going to protect me is, have I exhausted all my resources? Have I spent every single minute training as hard as I can? Have everybody here trained as hard as they could? And if not, why not? Do you not understand the reality? Or have you lost sight of it? And a lot of that, back in the day, we'd lose sight. I lost sight countless times. Drinking, fighting, doing stuff we shouldn't have been doing, not being a professional. It takes a couple times of really, really close calls or being jammed up in a bad situation and barely coming out of it to realign your focus. These are real bullets, man. Those are real grenades, and those are real people that are trying to kill you. And if you are just not better than they are, they're going to get you. And a lot of the times, it doesn't even matter. You understand it's a timing thing. And you can have the best tactic in the world, the most trained dude in the world. And if you're looking that way, when that dude comes out of that door, doesn't matter how good you are. You'll never see him coming. A lot of it, you don't want to chalk it up to fate, but a lot of it is. A lot of it you can't control. If you spend your whole time obsessing over that, it really, to me, it weeds down your confidence. It's like, I've exhausted everything I can. And if my plane gets shot down, my plane gets shot down. There's nothing I can do about that. I can't fly the plane too. Can't do it all. But have we exhausted all our resources to take out all the variables we can? Yeah. Are we all as trained as we can be? Yeah. Am I physically fit? Yeah. Am I mentally in tune with everything around me? Yes. Can't do anything more than that. Let's go. I feel like the more and more you do it, the more confidence you build after a while, but it takes a little bit.
Just whilst we're on this point, was there a moment when you were first deployed, not knowing what to expect, and then at some point realizing like, oh shit, this is real, like this is really real? Was there a specific moment that stands out to you?
In Iraq, right off the very beginning, just the way they flew into country was one of the scariest things I've ever been a part of. I mean, they were yanking and banking. I mean, flares were going off, and it was just part of the protocol back then. But I'd never seen anything like that. And nobody in that entire group that deployed with us had ever been to Iraq. And whether they want to admit it or not, they've never seen anything like that either. It was scary as shit. I mean, we were an hour out. They're breaking open all the boxes, body armor, nods are going on. I mean, I thought we were going to land like we just dropped a landing craft on, Normandy. Like, I thought we were going. And nope, backed all our trucks off. We're on a base. Okay. And it wasn't until you started to see the aftermath. Like, you've been there for 24 hours and you hear about Marine Division so-and-so and this group getting blown up. And, they're always calling for O-negative blood every hour on the hour. And you're like, what's up with all the O-negative blood? And you're like, universal donor. I'm a universal donor. I'm just over there farming out blood this whole time. It's like, because everybody's getting blown up. It's like, it's just not happening to us. We're just missing it over and over and over again. It's like, are we just that good? Are we just that lucky? And back in the day, you didn't know the difference. Like, are we just so trained these guys just don't want to mess with us? And that's what a lot of guys would tell ourselves. We just look aggressive, so they're not messing with us. That's not the truth. That's not the truth at all. They don't care who you are. It's just a timing thing. They're just waiting for the next vehicle. And we just were never that next vehicle. We just missed it. And then when the helo got shot down in Afghanistan, that really was a reality check that it doesn't matter. The dudes who were on that helicopter, guys who were on the ground, were so good, so trained, so experienced, and it did not matter. The pilots, you couldn't have picked better pilots on Earth. I mean, they were the best pilots that have ever flown aircraft. They just are. Still got shot out of the sky. Doesn't matter. Like when you take that away, you take out that blanket of, like you show them that blanket of vulnerability, like you're not invincible, dude. You are not. That patch, that flag you have on means shit. Nothing. It's not going to protect you. It will not. The only thing that's going to protect you is timing. Control the variables all you want to. If they shoot you out of the sky, it doesn't matter how tough you are on the way down. Like, well, what do? Control the things you can't control. Like I control my output. I control my work effort. Like I can put as much in this as humanly possible, and I can tell you I'll go the entire way. But if they never give me the opportunity, it's like, that's really what I struggled with is, what if I never get the opportunity to fight? What if I get blown up? I wake up, both my legs are gone, both my arms are gone. Like I'm 19 years old. What? I don't want this to happen. That was my big fear, is that I'd get crushed, I'd get blown up, I'd get killed, and I'd never have a chance. It's like, I don't want that.
I hope you're enjoying this video so far. Today's video, as always, was powered by Huel. Huel has been an absolute game changer for me and my life. I love drinking their Black Edition. They're ready to drink. It has 26 vitamins and minerals, 35 grams of protein, and slow release carbs. When I know that I can just reach into my bag and grab a bottle of Huel on the go, it has changed my life. And as I'm training for the world's heaviest marathon right now, where I lift 220 pounds of weight for 26.2 miles, and then I do 450 miles with 70 pounds on my back, Huel has been my go-to fuel. Don't just take my word for it. The hardest geezer who ran the length of Africa also downs a couple bottles of Huel whilst he's on his run. So if you want to join someone like Hardest Geezer, or if you've just got a busy life in general, Huel can be an absolute game changer. Head to the link in the description where you can find out more about Black Edition and other products of Huel, and some exclusive offers down below. Thank you to Huel for sponsoring the video. Let's dive back into the episode.
We deployed to Afghanistan in the summer of 2004. And that was the Operation Red Wings deployment. So the Marcus Luttrell story was Operation Red Wings. And I was in Germany. We were getting ready to rotate in Afghanistan to relieve those guys. And we got word, like literally we're packing all our stuff. It was only going to be another week or so before we rotated in Afghanistan. Excuse me. They would come to Germany, and basically they called it a rotate in place, a RIP. And we got word that our helicopter had been shot down. And, I was originally in Echo Platoon who had been on that helicopter, and I got moved into Foxtrot. So I had friends, Mike McGreevy, the OIC, had been my original OIC, and I had known Mike from years past. I mean, just a great guy. My youngest daughter and his daughter were only born months apart. So he and I frequently would talk about daughters. So I remember, the thought of losing Mike, Jacques Fontaine, Jeff Lucas, Jeff Taylor, Mike, and our task unit commander, Eric Christensen, were all the guys who were part of my troop. And then obviously we lost the individuals from SDV Team 1 and 2. And then we found out that we had lost the guys on the ground, and that Marcus was evading, And then finally they found Marcus. Myself and some other guys went up to Landstuhl, Germany, where he had been recovered, and they flew in. When they flew him in, they flew in Mike Murphy and Danny Dietz's bodies. They had been recovered. And so I remember being there. We stood watch for a little bit on their bodies while those guys, because we always have somebody that escorts the bodies home. So the guys that were escorting them home went and took a break, got some lunch. We stood watch. They came back. I met Marcus for the first time. And then probably a day or two later, we flew into Afghanistan. So, I don't know, kind of had struggled as a young leader. So I wanted to prove myself. Once again, a very dangerous thing, you know, which is even more important why I think it's critical in life that you become content with, not necessarily content. You still want to rise up. We still want to be there. But I think it's dangerous when I think it makes people do erratic and potentially things for the wrong reasons. And I almost feel like I've lived my life that way, you know? And I felt like that drove me like, hey, I want to get in the fight. I want to be in the mix. And as a combat leader, that's also a very dangerous thing because you're leading people into a situation where if it's not for the right reasons and you're not making the right decisions, yeah, people die. So that means decisions you're making ultimately send people to their death. And it's one thing when you're going after a mission and you're doing things according to plan. Unfortunately, that's part of the job. It's another thing if you have a leader who's making bad decisions, who places you in a terrible situation. And that's kind of what happened months later. In September, I made a bad call. We were on a mission, and without getting too deep into the details, all the details are in my book, The Trident. I go deep into the details on this, but I basically took myself off a position of tactical advantage, brought a machine gunner, and went down into the valley to try and enforce guys down below who were in a gunfight. A lot of people who don't understand tactics would say, well, what's wrong with that? That sounds heroic. It was driven by my own desire to be in the fight. It also went against, I had been told by my senior enlisted who we butted heads, hey, don't go down in that valley. I let my ego get in the way. And instead of asking why, I just said, screw you, I'm going. If I had stopped, I would have found out, hey, they're getting ready to call in an airstrike. Like, we need to know where everyone is. So when I made that decision to go down into that valley, it delayed that airstrike by 30 minutes. I am super fortunate that no one was killed or injured during that time. But I will tell you, it killed my professional reputation. By the time I got to the other side of the valley and out of the valley and linked back up with the guys, they were like, get rid of that dude. He's dangerous. Flew me back to Bagram to meet with the commanding officer and was, told, hey, we're thinking about kicking you out. There were a lot of guys who wanted to see me kicked out. And I think that was, I don't want to say rock bottom. I don't think I had hit that yet, but it was rock bottom enough that I thought about killing myself. The night prior to finding out their decision, whether they were kick me out or not, I pulled my gun out and put it in my mouth and thought about, ending my life. Thankfully, I did not. I saw a picture of my wife and kids and just thought, what are you doing? Went and got help, saw the chaplain, came back, he convinced me to wait and find out. And thankfully they did not kick me out. My commanding officer was really against the will of many of the guys. Many of the guys and some of the senior leaders said, get rid of that guy. He's dangerous. He's going to get somebody killed. And he said, well, I think he has potential. I think we need to humble him and I'm going to give him a second chance. And he did. So out of that second chance, there were several things that happened. They took away any awards I was supposed to get. They wrote a letter of reprimand that didn't go into my officer record because if it had, it would have been the end of my career. That's kind of how the military works. But instead, he said, I'm going to put it in my safe. If you do well the next go around, it gets shredded and gone. Your career keeps going. And he said, I'm going to send you to U.S. Army Ranger School. And which is funny because when I was younger, I wanted to go to Ranger School just to go to Ranger School. It's just, I don't know, I wanted to check that box and be like, hey, if I'm a SEAL, I want to have a Ranger tab too. And that was not real uncommon in the SEAL teams back then. After the war kicked off, it was more uncommon because Ranger School is a hard school. It's hard on the body. Most guys lose 20, 30 pounds when they're going through Ranger School because one of the things they use is a lack of food to create stress and adversity on you. So yeah, now here I am 13 years in, had done pretty well. although I'd made all these mistakes as a leader, as a new leader, and now I'm being told to go to Ranger School. So yeah, I really kind of had a victim mindset about it. I was pretty angry and pissed off. Instead of being like, wow, I got a second chance. What can I do with this? I wasn't there yet. So a couple months later, went to Ranger School. Kind of hit rock bottom there. I failed the land nav course on my own accord because arrogantly thought I could knock out the entire course in the daytime. You know, you were supposed to start at 3 a.m., 6 a.m., the sun came up. You had about 3 hours to complete this very long, arduous 6-point land navigation course. Well, I decided, well, hey, I'm good enough. I'm good enough. I'll cover the whole thing in 3 hours when the sun comes up. So I kicked around and screwed off and pissed and moaned about being there. And yeah, I didn't finish. So when that occurred, and I went to check in, the Ranger instructors, there's a good rivalry, you know, for the most part, a healthy rivalry between SEALs and Rangers and other branches. And they started talking shit, you know, hey, you suck, you know, hey, Swabby, you know, maybe if we had given you a boat, you would have finished, you know, and stupid things like that. And I let my anger and everything that had happened just bubble up and basically told them, you know, screw you in this course. And they said, are you quitting? And I said, yes. And they said, okay, well, here, get in this van, you're done. And man, when the words came out of my mouth, I was like, what are you doing? You're an idiot. Like I wanted to take them back, but at that point I felt like, well, you know, too late now. And I just kind of resigned myself like, well, this is the end of your career. Like you've played your hand and, you know, you'll never be able to recover from this. And I also had started to lie to myself in my head. And this is, the conspiracy theories in your mind. I bought into this idea that the guys would never follow me again. Like, hey, you've messed up too much. No one will ever follow you again. So that was kind of my thought, like, how am I ever going to be able to go back after the mistakes that I made? And now, oh my God, you just quit Ranger School. SEALs don't quit anything. If we'll kick you out if you quit. So I was like, I don't know how I can recover from this. I guess this is it. And I remember calling my wife and saying, hey, I guess I'm coming home tomorrow. I think this is done. I said, I think I'm going to get kicked out of the military. So she listened and was super understanding, went and saw the Ranger Colonel. And he was like, hey, do you want to talk to anybody in the SEAL team? I was like, not only no, but no. Like, I am ashamed, man. I don't want to talk to anybody. And he was like, well, hey, one of my friends is senior leader. Well, it was my old commanding officer, the one who I'd gone and seen, who said, hey, this war is going to last for decades. One of the most respected guys I know. There's no way I could not talk to him. And he had him on the phone. And I remember talking and he just said, hey, Red, what are you doing? And I laid out this sob story and he said, listen to me. He said, the guys will follow you if you give them a reason to. He's like, that's all leadership is. He said, I don't care how bad you've messed up. You know, sustained superior performance over time is what people will follow. I don't care who you are. I don't care what team you're on. Humans will follow success. He's like, go crush that course, come back to the SEAL teams and give the guys a reason to follow you. And that's what I really needed to hear. Like, oh, there is actually a formula for me to drive forward. And that became a formula that I started to build all my leadership around. Lead yourself, lead others, lead always. I'm not perfect in it, but it was a formula I put in place that I used through Ranger School. I used it as I got back to the SEAL teams. And I just tried to, I stopped trying to take some shortcut to be a great leader and just focus on how to be the best leader of myself, which I was really good at, despite the doubts and the demons that live inside your head that I heard on a regular basis. And that was really hard for me because as a kid that had always grown up thinking of himself as a skinny runt, now I stepped into the phase of you're a f*** up. We don't want you. You're a fuck up. And that was really hard to come back. And, guys pulled no punches. I mean, my nickname was Rambo Red. Not a compliment. So, but it taught me a lot of resilience. And it also taught me to ignore those voices. I just got really good at, that demon in your mind that's telling you you're not good enough, that you're a fuck up, that you're a failure, ignore it. So I just always had this static in the back of my mind, like this ongoing music back there that I just ignored. And I just kept driving forward and just focus on, hey, lead yourself when it's time to lead others, and make the right decision all the time, lead always. So all of that slowly but surely earned back, my credibility and trust with the guys. Ended up deploying to Iraq, and our troop deployed in April of 2007. And a very, very eventful deployment. Definitely the most action-packed deployment I was ever on. A lot of guys tell me it was one of the most action-packed they were ever on. I mean, our troop over that deployment conducted 80 missions. So 80 missions to capture or kill high-level Al-Qaeda or insurgent leaders. And as SEALs, it was like everything you ever dreamed of. So it was a lot of opportunity for me to lead and learn and really to try and put these things into place. And definitely, one night in June, we got into a very big, complicated firefight, multiple enemy positions. I had an enemy machine gunner and shooters up on a rooftop, barricaded in. I don't know if DJ told the story. He was shot in the chest. He was one of our guys on that target. And when he moved up and one of our other point men to try and take that rooftop, one of the guys shot him right in the chest. But thankfully his body armor, it struck a magazine and his body armor, fell back, kind of created massive chaos. We had a grenade drop down and frag a couple of our guys, and severely injured our interpreter. So chaos, screaming, blood, had women and children all in this target that we tried to pull inside, taking fire from the rooftop, which is shooting on other targets, and fire from another building around. Managed that pretty well, and we managed to pull everybody back along with the women and children to another target, and then drop that building. And after that target that night, a lot of guys came up to me and said, hey man, you did a great job. It was kind of nice. It was like this full circle moment, like, hey, you proved you're not the fuck up. You have the ability to do this job, which was good. I think that was tremendous for my confidence.